Okay, so hello. Thank you for watching this video where I explain what I've done for this Java course project. I will share now the screen and will show you what I've done. So for this project, I decided to go with the building a library, mini library system. And as you can see here, this is the main directory of the project. Here I have my main classes and then one interface and one exception class. I will explain in a second the whole thing. Initially, I started with the abstract item main class. And this is because I was aiming, first of all, to meet all of the requirements, and second of all, to have a functional program, um, which serves a purpose and really helps in the idea, helps the implementation of a library catalog or business idea that could use the same system. It's a console, a simple menu from which there are 10 functions or options, 10 options, and each of them has specific functionality and parameters and functions. We'll discuss methods. But first of all, I just wanted to say that it's a system to manage indeed library items. In this case, just two type of items, books and magazines. And as you can see, the abstract item class will be then extended in book and magazine classes. Sorry, just a second, the book class and magazine class. And for each of them, I'll explain in a second. This is a system for users to borrow and return items. The system is menu driven. The menu is found then in the main class, and also the logic of the menu is found in the library class. And the user is supposed to interact through the console. This is like a separate class, even though it has just like 10 lines. Encapsulation is applied by keeping all fields private and providing controlled access through getters and setters, including validation logic. And as required, all fields are private and all methods, behaviors are public in this project. I also implemented method overriding, such as overriding toString, equals methods, custom methods like getDetails, which is the base class, abstract base class method item, and then implemented in both children classes, book and magazine. And for collections and generics, the system uses Java collections, such as ArrayList, to store items, and HashMap to manage users efficiently. I selected these structures because they provide fast access and flexibility. And generics are demonstrated through a utility class. The utility class, this one, it's just for this service, just for a generic method to be reusable and loosely coupled with the rest of the classes. Any type could be used for handling any collections of any type. This is the util class with its generic method. Then for exception handling, I created a custom exception called item not a variable exception. And again, I put it separately, even though it doesn't really do much. It just extends exception. It is separated to clearly represent a specific error condition in the system, which improves readability, reusability, and aligns with OOP principles by treating errors as distinct objects, like its own class, even though it inherits from exception class, an existing. Okay, and then functionality-wise, the system allows users to, of course, add books, magazines, register users, borrow, return items, search by title, remove items, and sort items. When we run the program, nothing is there. It will be created once we choose the options. So in the demonstration of the project, I will then add everything or try out every option so that we see how the code works. Now, design-wise, I separated concerns by keeping business logic in the library class. In the library class, we see here the whole business logic of the class, serves as the logic hub. And then it imports ArrayList, HashMap, and comparator classes. I use lambdas and streams and generics to iterate instead of just normal for and then nested ifs, as I see here, to find items, to make it faster, to make it more inclusive. So kept them separately in this library class, user logic in the user class, and reusable generic methods in separate utility class, the utils class. This follows good OOP design principles such as single responsibility and modularity. And then overall, the system demonstrates good OOP design, proper use of Java collections, exception handling, and I tried to be as clean as possible in code organization. I left some of the things I still, could use, because originally those were what I was going to use, but then I tried to make it more inclusive in terms of concepts and requirements, meeting them in the best way possible, or making it even somewhat smarter, especially when I tried to fix some usability testing bugs, like for example, the system doesn't allow the user to input invalid input. This is the menu, as we see, and why it can't enter invalid message, because read not empty string, try catch blocks. Now I will talk specifically about each class a little bit more, and then I'm going to demonstrate the console and prove that the project, the code is correct and it works, is functional. About each class, when I were implementing them, abstract base class item, which is an abstract superclass used to generalize all library items and enforce a common structure. It defines common properties, like the ID, title, and the valuability. It enforces a common structure through the abstract method getDetails. Here's a method, getDetails. And of course, it has two implementations, which are the children classes. So in details, we will have to have override, first of all, to string to return all of these values in the string, the ID, title, and the availability. So title is already string, but the others are integer and full. So overriding, and then I have the equals method, checking if it's true. Okay, and then we go to the book and the magazine classes. The book extends item, as said a billion times, and implements the borrowable interface. Okay, maybe I have to start with borrowable. Borrowable is an interface that defines the common behavior. I think I went through this once. It ensures the loose coupling and flexibility in the system, but then it will be implemented in the book and magazine, and they define how borrowing actually works. Now we got the book, and then the magazine class. So for this, we have the private members, author, and genre, and the constructor, and then we'll get detailed implementation of the method of the base class, and then the implementation of the borrow and return item from the interface, determining what will happen. If the book is available, yes, then the system will print that the book has been borrowed once we try the option that we want to borrow a book, or the user wants to borrow a book, because we'll put the user's details. And then the process is successful or not, and it's not if the book is not available. And then return item, okay, and then we have the magazine. The magazine is very similar, is another subclass of item, a child, the same level with book, demonstrating inheritance and polymorphism, which implements again the borrowable interface and defines its own borrowing logic and additional field. Because for magazines, we have issue number instead of book. Well, we have the magazine ID, we have the issue number, and will be related information to the magazine if the magazine has been borrowed. It will have its title, its ID, and its issue number. Okay, and then we have the library class. The library class acts as the core logic class. It manages collections of items and users. All of the methods, the members, items, and users. All of the methods or behavior or functionality that this class has to add an item. And I have a check so that we can't enter the same item, being it a book or a magazine. We cannot re-enter it because the ID is unique, and we run a check with the if. And then the item is or not successfully added or removed. Find item. Here we use again streams and lambda. And then we have list all items. This is for all items in the library that are currently added to the system. And we print their details because we override again details. Not override, just call the function. We're not overriding it. But it really depends if the item is a book or a magazine, the way that the getDetails will be printing the details about the item. And then we have add a new user, welcome message if the user was successfully added. Here we get the information for the user ID, and then we have the borrowing unit, borrow return logic. So it was the management, it was item management, it was the user management, and now we have the borrowing logic. And in the borrowing logic, of course, if the item is not available, we will throw the exception, item is not available exception, and if it is, then the item will be borrowed and displayed by who has borrowed the item. So first we check if the user who wants to borrow is already added to the system, and then we check if this item is in the system. And if the item is in the system and it's already borrowed, then the exception is thrown. And if it is available, then the user that currently is trying to borrow, identified by their ID, will be able to borrow. The search logic is very simple. It uses again a simple for loop with a nested if. If the item is not found, then this message is printed. No such items were found having the entered keyword. if we're running a search for the items already existing in the menu, in the library system. And then sorting by title. This one will sort them in ascending. All titles are expected to be in capitals, and I don't have a check for this, but normally they would be in capital letters, and they would start with A, and then the other letters, and A is the smallest. So here I use the imported comparator, and then I have lambda item sorted by title. Originally had the just a simple for loop, but then I replaced it with a lambda in expression to sort items by title and then display them using iterations and streams because it's faster. The final thing is just list again. I use streams and lambda. And then the user class, it has a system user and demonstrates composition because a user has an item, and the item could be a book or magazine, and it maintains a list of borrowed items. Now, it manages adding and removing items from the list that the user has of the borrowed items list. And here I've used this simple if-else logic and then the for loop running for, adding all items that the user wants to borrow. Then we have the utils class. I already explained this, and the exception handling. And then in the main class, of course, I think I already went through again. The simple try catch, and then the check if the string is not empty, not null. It has to, something has to be entered. While I was testing it, originally without having this check, the read non-empty string method, I had a case when I was testing it that I wanted to enter add a new book to the library system, and I skipped the line where I put the title of the book, and the ID was already recorded, and so when I tried to re-enter the item, of course it wouldn't allow me because I did the ID check. ID has to be unique for every item in the business logic, and so yeah, I thought, okay, I cannot skip any of the lines, and valid input has to be entered. Now, there isn't a format for the input. If I were to take the development of this project a little bit further, I would have to format the number of digits, like the size of the ID for the user, for the magazine, and for the book, for all of the items, and the user itself, him or herself. And I would have to probably maybe even add more details, like a phone number for the user. And that's very easily manageable. It's just for the purposes of meeting the requirements and not really extending too much also with my time management. I decided to leave it to this level. Okay, and now the non-string, yes, and then the main menu, and then each case for when we choose whichever of the options that we have in the menu, and then eventually catching exceptions and unexpected errors. And this is it. Thank you so much for your attention. Now I'm going to run. Oh my God. Yeah, okay. Okay, and now we see a demo of this project. So this is the library menu. It's very easy for the user to add a book, and I'm gonna add the book ID. I'm just gonna have some random numbers, but I have a couple of books I'm gonna enter here. And so we have 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. And the book title is Wings of Starlight. Yeah. Wings of Starlight by Alison Saft, New York Times best-selling author. The genre fantasy. Oh, and let me try this. If I enter an empty string for any of these input fields, it will require this field cannot be empty. Please try again. And then I put the information that I'm asked for, fantasy genre. And I ran some tests for all of them. Now the book is successfully added. Now let's add another book. And this is going to be the book ID 1111 2222 and the book title is going to be Sunrise on the Reaping. This one is for all of the Hunger Games fans of the books which broke my heart. Sunrise on the Reaping by Susan Collins, the author of all of the Hunger Games books. Susan Collins. Okay. And now the genre is again fantasy, actually sort of sci-fi. Okay, and now this item was also added successfully. Now let's add a magazine, runway. Well, another ID, 2222333344. Okay, and enter the magazine ID. Oh well, I think I might have pressed it twice. Or it's already taken, or it's too long and not, no, it's not too long. Okay, I might have pressed it before, or it does already have a limit of numbers, which I don't think, but it also wasn't a copy of another one. So that was unexpected, but the program didn't break. It just said, please enter a valid number again. Okay, and now we enter the magazine title, Runway, for all of the Devil Wears Prada fans. Issue number, just for now, just a number. Your item was successfully added, and now we add a user so that they can use this. And now the user ID has to be a field. I'm putting my own AOG ID. Okay, and then my name. And I was welcomed and successfully joined. Now, I'm gonna do one user for now, and I'm gonna probably add another user later. Let's just all now list the library items. And here we have them. We have 2 books and 1 magazine, Wings of Starlight, Sunrise on the Reaping, and Runway. And now I'll try to borrow one of them. As you see, all of them are available, that's true. And now let's borrow one of them. The user's ID. And then the book ID, see, you need to enter the book ID. Item ID. And my, oops, I need to give some space to this ID. I'm sorry for that. I haven't done that. Just some UX design, UI design. Anyway, this is just a console and that's okay. So let's enter a valid book ID. And so I chose The Wings of Starlight. I think I entered the correct ID. Yes, was successfully borrowed by me. And now if I list again the library items, we'll see that now this is the first book is not available. It's available false because I already borrowed it. And now I would need another user. So let's add another user. Let's say 220-228-994. Okay, and their name, Ben. Okay, so Ben is the new user. Welcome, Ben. And now, and now let's have Ben try to borrow my book, which I already borrowed. And my book ID is Wings of Starlight 111222 11222344. Okay, enter the. Oops, nope, that's wrong. Invalid input. Okay, let me enter the ID. Okay, see, I put the user's ID instead of the item's ID for the Wings of Starlight, and it will now say the user was not found because there doesn't exist. There isn't a user with that ID. Now, another improvement could be that I check each of these before I enter both, and that would be easier because it would allow for the correct input for the user ID. Okay, so let's have Ben try to borrow this item again. User ID for Ben is this one, and the item ID. And now error because this item is already borrowed by another user, so the program didn't go through. And if we checked, we list all of the library items. We have Wings of Starlight still false, not available because it's borrowed by me. And now let's have Ben or me search for an item, or even just like a librarian, and we're looking for Starlight. And there is a book which is still borrowed by me, and we can search again for anything, and it can be empty. Well, so let's check for Sunrise. And yes, the correct search found the book. Okay, and now we try the search. Let's try to remove the magazine. So let's enter the ID of the magazine. It has to be a valid ID. And let me just enter a number because I don't remember the ID. I'll have to go check again. This item was not found in the first place. It should have been removed already, or it doesn't, exist in the library system if it hasn't been removed and it existed before. And now let's get the list of the items and let's remove Runway. And we're going to remove the magazine IDs 223333. Okay, and the item was successfully removed, adding its ID. And then list current available items. And there's only one, Sunrise on the Reaping by Susan Collins, because that's the one that I didn't borrow and Ben hasn't borrowed anything yet. Let's have Ben as the second user borrow an item. So Ben's ID. Okay, and the item ID. Let's have him borrow Sunrise on the Reaping. It has 4 1s, 4 2s, and 2 3s. Okay, and Ben successfully borrowed it. So now list all currently available items. and we don't have any output because there isn't any available item. Okay, and then we go back to the menu, and now we can sort library items by their title. And as we see, the two existing items, because we removed the runway, are alphabetically sorted. And now let's return the item. The user ID, let's have Ben return his item. And he got the first book. Oops, there we go. Okay, Ben successfully returned the item. And now let's have me also return the item, or I can keep it, And now let's just exit the menu. Okay, and once we finish the process and we exit the menu, then this library and all of the information is gone. So it will have to be running nonstop for it to keep track of all of the changes in that system. Or then it will have to have storage and space to have memory. And now I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I hope you find this project useful, and I hope it meets all requirements. Thank you for your attention. Have a good night. Have a lovely day.